Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Jon Shreve with us today. He's president and CEO at MCG. We're going to talk about his company, moving patients toward health proactively, and efficiency is what they do. This pod is presented by my podpire.com company. We help you start and scale your podcast. If you want to get a bunch of partnerships, sponsors, and guests on your pod, even appear on other podcasts, you can go to podpire.com. Jon, I'm glad to have you on. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
All right, yeah. So um, I'm an actuary by background. So I started as doing that, and I was a consultant at Milliman. And then inside of Milliman, we started the Milliman Care Guidelines. And then we spun them out, sold them to Hearst, and became MCG Health. So that's all sort of part of the long arc there. And the other thing personally about me is I play competitive Scrabble.
Tell me about that part. The competitive Scrabble. What does that tell about you and your CEO style?
Means I treat everything like a game.
Yeah, gamifying is quite important. How do you gamify business?
Well, it's more of it's strategy. So it's not really. I don't think of it as gamifying things. I think of it as meeting a series of challenges and figuring out how to solve them.
And competitive, you mean you play in a league against other players, and how do you rank up against them?
Um, yeah, so I play in tournaments that are around the country, and in the country, I'm ranked about number 50.
Whoa, in the country. So you're
Yeah,
pretty damn good at it. How did you become good at Scrabbling?
uh, just working at it for both studying the words as well as working hard on figuring out what the right strategy in various situations is, and um, so learning and practice and doing, and yeah.
On the business side, how do you stay competitive and how do you stay at the top of your game as a CEO?
I think I am a fairly relaxed CEO, so I'm um, uh, rather than getting revved up about things. Instead, I'm fairly even keeled and just meet the challenges that we have, and go from there.
And just to give the audience a picture, the company, it's around 500 employees nowadays, 50 million annual revenues, that around the line.
So about right on the employees, maybe 450, but much bigger in revenue. We have about 70% of the healthcare payers in the country use us, and about 50% of the hospitals do. So yeah.
So how did you group that in an empire? I've seen that this business, you've been at it for quite some time as well. Is it just patience and doing the right thing for 15 years?
That's kind of it. So I first got involved with MCG in 2001 when inside of Milliman we um, essentially another group had started the Milliman Care Guidelines, and then a group of 15 of the partners purchased it from them, kept it inside of Milliman, and the core concept was there of reviewing all the medical evidence and writing guidelines about what the most appropriate healthcare is. But then with time, we grew from that to more of a product company with software, and then into a medical technology company where were automating those same questions about the guidelines and reading the electronic medical records to figure out whether particular care is appropriate, or whether it's needs to be documented better, or questions along those lines.
Right. And you mentioned you're pretty relaxed CEO, but as an actuary background, I must guess that you're pretty obsessed and focused with the numbers.
I'm, let's say, very comfortable with the numbers. So when we are dealing with um, well, people in the company say don't give Jon a spreadsheet. But they, so I'm very comfortable with them, but uh, and I'm sort of, I think, naturally that way. So yeah.
Right. So I guess hiring as well is a strong component of the business. Sales as well. How do
What
you
was the
folks
first word you said? Hiring?
yeah, hiring the right people and yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
right person in the right seat. And sales, how do you folks actually sell and expand into new hospitals, for example?
Yeah, so we have a sales team that a number of sales execs who work with the payers and a number of others that work with the hospitals. And we have, so we have marketing that gets us to that point, and then a lot of, one-on-one. We know who the potential customers are, and most all of them know who we are. So it's an ongoing discussion. We are viewed by many as the gold standard in terms of that medical content that we put together, and so that's well known. Sometimes people forget we're MCG and think we're still Milliman, but other than that, they know us.
Right. And what is it that you sell exactly? Because you have so many solutions for payers, providers, ACOs and IDNs, TPAs, government partners, patients. So what are your various products and how do you sell them to these various decision makers?
Yeah, so we start with our content, and we have about a dozen or so volumes of content. So anything from when is it appropriate to admit someone to an inpatient care, um, all the way through behavioral health care, what's the appropriate setting, to chronic care guidelines, what's the best way to create a care plan and manage a particular condition. So the content is sort of the core of what we do, and those are sold on a subscription basis. So an annual fee. Um, and then our first software is workflow software. So Indicia and CareWebQI are the brand names of it, but Indicia is the software that case managers inside a hospital use to document the care that's being delivered. And CareWebQI is the software inside payers where they make decisions about payment and making sure that the right care is being delivered from the payer point of view. Um, and those are um, that software is probably 15 years old in terms of introduction. And then more recently, there's more, like I was saying, the automation software. Uh, so the feature we have that we refer to Synapse, which is we go into the electronic medical record, look at what's been documented and compare that against our guidelines, to determine whether the guidelines have been met or not. And we're producing something using large language models that will also help payers read the incoming information, because the secret about healthcare, or not so secret, is that the main interoperability standard among payers and providers is fax. So that's the one place fax machines are still used, or fax technology. And so as faxes come in, you need to read those and understand what the request is.
When you started in healthcare, did you knew that this could be a behemoth of a business?
No, no. I started as a consulting actuary, and so I did a lot of consulting work. And then, like I said, inside of Milliman, this business started up, as did others, by the way. Milliman has a structure that allows the equity principals within to invest in various um, products and practices that are being started up. And I really like the underlying form of it, of the care guidelines. Um, but I didn't expect it to grow nearly as big as it did. So it was we've just been building it over time.
And the guideline part of the business, that's 80% of the revenue.
No, it's not. It's it's 50 or 60 at this point.
Because yeah, I didn't know that there were guidelines that, like an ambulance person follows, or if I get admitted to an hospital, it's quite the niche.
Yeah, it's a there's one other primary competitor in the area.
Fascinating. What are your top goals this year as a CEO?
Um, we're kind of in a mode right now that I've been calling our reinvention efforts. It's we're trying to cut down on the amount of activities we're doing, try and focus on the right things to do, identify the clear ownership and direction overall. At the same time, we're recognizing um, that the business we're in might not grow at the rates that we would like, and we're considering, with the backing of Hearst, looking at a number of acquisitions to also build out things that are focused on getting patients the right care.
What are your criterias for acquisitions nowadays?
Um, it the closer it is to what we do, the better, because we think we're more likely to succeed in that direction. Um, uh, the uh, we have a number of things. I don't really want to talk about the specifics of where that is, but it could be patient. Hearst links to has their own financial criteria, so we follow those. Um, and it's probably something that's I don't know, a third of our size or somewhere along those lines. But with a lot of variability in that, because you can't just go decide to buy something; they have to be ready to sell. So it's more opportunistic.
Right. And what have you seen in your business since COVID happened? What did change since that time?
Um, well, in the business itself, the first thing we did in by like April 2020 or so is we released a new set of guidelines for COVID. So we and there wasn't so normally we look for evidence on what's happened before, and of course there wasn't evidence on what happened before in COVID. So we had to look at other viral illnesses to create guidelines around COVID. Um, but then the same thing, the same thing happened to us that happened to most people, which is went very remote. Before COVID, we were about 50% remote, so we were already used to it. And the main people who were coming into the office were the corporate functions and then the software developers. Um, and they're all located in Seattle, and so we went remote, and now we're entirely remote pretty much, although we still have the office in Seattle. And what we've done is we've created MCG week, which is 1 week a month, where we say that's the time to come in and do things, so that when we get together, so that when you come into the office, there are other people there too, right? So it's so that sort of helps our what we refer to as glue to help keep people together in what we're doing.
Love it. And why do you feel that the segment that you're in is potentially like not a growth train? And what would be the alternative to acquiring these businesses? Are you thinking to start new teams in the company to help you grow in one specific direction as well?
Um, So I haven't ruled out, by the way, that we can't continue the growth in this area, and I think a lot of the AI side is the direction we'll go from here that really helps us build it out further. But given our large market penetration um, in uh, in our core businesses, it's when you get that large, it's hard to grow at 15% a year, which is where we had been. Um, and so we can only do it really with new products. And we've started some new teams in that direction, yeah. But we'll probably supplement them with other new teams, which happen to be acquisitions.
Nice. In terms of recruitment, what are your criteria to recruit new team members?
Um, we definitely have sort of a cultural profile that we look at, along with, of course, the right technical skills for the job that they're in. MCG has a very strong culture, a very strong collaborative culture, that probably well, you can see it on Glassdoor. We're at a 4.7 rating on Glassdoor, and uh, people, especially, we often recruit people from our clients because they get to know us, and then they're like, we want to work there. So it's a place that's um, yeah, just has the strong cultural values. Um, uh, the I know our customer success team focuses on the ideal team player attributes: hungry, humble, and smart. And that's not a bad description of who we're going after overall.
And as a CEO, on a day-to-day basis, you told me you were drinking some keto drink. Like, how do you take care of yourself to stay energized and healthy?
Yeah, I'm like I was saying before, even keeled, so that helps me a lot. I don't hit the. I was seeing a presentation recently where they're focused on how to keep that even keel, and it's like, oh, I already do that. Um, but um, so so yeah, it's um, I try and eat healthily, although I don't always succeed, and um, I'm not a heavy duty exerciser, but I try and get on, like a 4 mile walk every couple times a week, something like that. So, um, uh, things along those lines.
Right. And in your pastime, other than playing Scrabble, what activities do you practice to relax yourself?
Um, when I've tried things to relax myself, they just drive me nuts. I'm more relaxed as is, as opposed to doing other things. So it's um, we like to travel, although more recently, because of my wife's health, we haven't been doing as much of that. So um, she's from Maine, and we spend the summers there, and so that's nice.
There you go. So, John, where can people find out more about you and your business?
Certainly at mcg.com is our business, and or look for me on LinkedIn.